Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get ready to build our snowman. Before we build the snowman, just a quick overview of what we're going to do. Each of the snowman pieces of the snowman's torso, each of them are divs. And so we're actually going to take each one of these divs and shape it and then align it and position it and things of that nature. Our hat is also a div. The rim is a div. Both eyes, nose, and mouth are all divs. So as we move along, I believe in this video we're going to take short steps so we can talk about them. Our primary objective will be to build just the three divs themselves, the actual snowman themselves. So let's go ahead and get started with that. With it being divs, what we do know at this point is we are going to go ahead and do an take our index.html file, and I'm going to do a lot of copy and paste in the video to spare us spelling mistakes and to make the video a little more enjoyable, and you can pause when you need to. So what we're going to start off with is a div for the snowman himself. Or herself, excuse me, snowman, snowwoman, whatever you want it to be. And the reason we do this is because we know that the snowman itself is one whole entity, and because it's one whole entity, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're putting the pieces of the snowman collectively together so that later we can manage them as one whole entity. The first thing, of course, that we need is the head, and then we also need the body, and then we need the feet. And when I do typing, what I'm using here is Emmet, and basically by typing in the element name and then dot right after it without a space, and then the class that I want to name it, and then hitting tab, Emmet goes ahead and it creates it for us. So now we see we have the snowman, we have the head, the body, the feet, and this is what we're going after in this lesson. So we're going to go ahead and just stick with those items, and we're going to start to see how do we want to bring this all together. First thing we do want to do is we want to go ahead and do a new folder, assets, new folder, CSS, and new file, which will be our style.css. Pretty much everything that we do with the snowman or anything is going to be right there inside of our style sheet. So we'll go ahead, we create that, and let's go ahead and link it as well. Link, and then of course assets, CSS, style. Save it, and let's clean up our code right away. There we go. So we have some decent looking code. We have our style sheet linked. Let's go ahead and make sure that our view is split in Code Live. The nice thing about Code Live in Dreamweaver is that we can actually work on our style sheet just like we would in the browser to style things out. And the way that we do that is while in the split view of Code Live, we actually select the CSS from up here inside our file. Because we're linked, it gives it to us. The first thing that we want to do, that I would like to do, is go ahead and give our background some color. For now, we'll just go ahead and we'll make it a light gray. And the reason that we want to give it the color is so that we can offset our work as we go through. We're doing pretty much multimedia, and we want to make sure that we offset our work is visible and very clear. We go ahead and we add in for the class snowman a width and a margin. Margin really just works on centering it. Overflow, we want, if anything flows outside of the div, and if you were to put a border on just to explore it, let's put a thin dashed green on for now. We'll take it off when we're done, just so you can watch what happens to the div as we go along. So now we have our basically our snowman. Inside of there we have our three divs. And we know that we name them SM body, SM feet, SM head, and we know that those three divs are going to have common characteristics. And so what we want to do is we want to go in and we want to set a border of thin and we'll just mark it to black for now and solid so that we can see those borders come to life, and they come, they basically get that snowman feel from the border radius that we're using. So if I take that away, we have divs as we know divs. We've established a height of 150 pixels, and we've put a background color on them, and we're telling them to center themselves inside this snowman div. And so by giving a border radius of 45, we give a little flatness to the ends. And if we look and we put in 50, we can see the difference. It actually makes them rounder. Some of you might argue that 50 is a better number. I wouldn't even stand up to that argument. I would say go ahead if you feel strongly about that and make them 50 if that makes you feel better. But as we move along, you might change that feeling. All right. So the first piece that we're going to go ahead and address is the snowman's head. We know that the snowman's head is a little smaller, and at the moment we're doing positioning, which I'll go ahead and we'll bring that back into play in a minute as well. We'll just go ahead with the width for now so that you can see. Now we're basically just giving the snowman's head definition in width and size, so that as we move on and we get down to the body, we can actually start to do the same. So let's do position. So in this case, we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to give it a width. Let me clean up the code of 70%. And what we're hoping to achieve is eventually is to end up making our widths based on percentages, because if we grow and we grow in height and width, we want it to grow with it. And we'll learn about that in much later lessons. We'll actually start to make those things work for us, and we'll start to understand them a little better. But of course you can see now we're at 50% for the head, 70% for the body, and now we must do the feet. So we'll do our snowman feet, and again I'm going to go ahead and comment out certain aspects so that we can discuss them as we come back through. Excellent. So now we can see that we're actually starting to take on that shape of a snowman. Our body's starting to look a bit like a snowman. If we come out and we look at localhost and compare it to our snowman, on there, empty cache, there we go. We can see that they're very similar. Just a couple characteristics missing, which is the overlapping of the snowballs to make it appear as though they're actually sitting on top of each other and not just stacked on top of each other. And that's where our next step comes in. With this next step, you'll see, and of course I have them commented out, and again, typing just doesn't make sense. Let's go ahead and start with the body. We're going to tell it we want it positioned relative, meaning from where it sits, and we want the bottom to go down 40 pixels. That way we're setting the snowball down in and giving the illusion that it's actually, kind of three-dimensional somewhat in a way. And then we're going to tell the same thing for the head, except we're going to tell it to come down 60 pixels. Now, if you notice, we've pulled the snowman down. He's sitting inside the div, but the problem is that this is behind that, and it does not look natural. And so, of course, we have an answer to that, which is our z-index, which is what allows us to, it just hopped out because I had it commented out, allows us to establish which layers will sit where. Now that we know we have this at z-index of 10, just for future things are going to continue to work properly, let's go ahead and let's set our z-index for our body to 9 and for our feet to 8. And if you notice, we even put a margin on the bottom to just kind of give it that deeper, fatter illusion of reaching down into the page. Awesome. So if we go ahead and we save that, and we go out and we look at our local host, refresh the cache, we actually are getting quite close to what our snowman objective looks like. And at this point, before we wrap this part of the lesson up, what we will do is let's go ahead and let's get rid of, on the snowman, let's get rid of that border that we put there so that we could see it. Let's clean up our code. Let's save it. Let's take one more look out here, clear cache, and we can see that we're well on our way to beginning our snowman. If I close that, we'll actually see that we're actually pretty much right on track. Awesome. So before we're done, the next thing that we want to do is we want to do a quick git status and commit. So let's go, we're in git commander. Let's go run a git status. We can see that we modified our index, and the assets folder and everything in it was, or whatever is in it, was added. So let's go ahead and do git add, run another git status, and we'll see that our style sheet's waiting there and our index is there. So let's do git commit -m, and let's put added the base to our snowman by creating 3 divs inside the snowman class div, added the style.css file. So that way we just have an idea of what we're doing. If we have to look back at it, and at this point we can see that we are committed and all is well. So in the next video, what we'll do is we'll push this branch up to GitHub, and then we'll merge it into master and be ready to move on to our next step.